Without question, Kenner's vintage Star Wars line remains one of the most iconic and beloved toy lines of all time. But that doesn't mean there weren't some stinkers along the way. In this video, we're going to count down the 10 worst Star Wars figures ever made. Stay tuned. Welcome back. If you grew up in the late 70s or early 80s, the chances are that you played with Star Wars figures, and at that time, most of us were just grateful for the experience. Fast forward 4 decades, and some of those figures no longer hold that same appeal. So let's get right into this with the 10 worst Star Wars figures. First released in 1978, Han Solo came with an abnormally small head. But once the designers realised their error, they took things in the opposite direction and gave him an oversized, bulbous head. The figure is just so out of proportion and quite frankly it looks ridiculous. And when coupled with the fact that he has difficulty holding his blaster, the number 10 spot on this list goes to the large-headed Han Solo. Despite already releasing a Bespin guard during the first wave of Empire Strikes Back figures in 1980, Kenner saw fit to release an updated version in 1981's Wave 3, and before anyone gets their knickers in a twist, this has nothing to do with skin colour. The first version has a solid sculpt that looks really good on display, whereas the updated version was given an odd, slanted pose that gives the impression he's light on his feet. Now, I'm no fan of repaints, but this is one instance where it would have worked. Therefore, number 9 is the Black Bespin guard. I'm sure most of you were expecting this figure to feature higher in the list, and while it is a shocker, there are some redeeming qualities. Well, just the one actually, and that is its vibrant colour. Quite often action figures can be a bit drab, so it's quite nice to have a purple and red colour scheme break up that monotony. Now, all the colours in the world can't take away from the fact that this is essentially just an old man in a dressing gown, and given that one of the main attractions to Star Wars figures was the fact that they came with action accessories, an old man in a dressing gown with no accessories means that the Imperial dignitary sits at number 8. Despite being the tallest figure in the line, EV-99 was a massive disappointment. This is without question the flimsiest figure Kenner made, and finding one with all the limbs intact can prove quite challenging. And even if you do get lucky, the chances are that the legs will be bowed. A fragile figure coupled with a dull paint scheme means that EV-99 comes in at number 7. When I was given this figure in 1981, my first thought was, why is that tree branch wearing a swimsuit? It's one of the oddest looking figures Kenner made, and one that I could just never take to. Now, I'm no fashion expert, but even I know you should never pair brown with blue. So for that reason, Hammerhead comes in at number 6. Much like the Imperial dignitary, here we have another old man in a dressing gown, only this time it's been done in a really boring colour scheme. And while I appreciate we only saw Anakin as a smiling Force ghost in the movie, the inclusion of a lightsaber would have propelled this figure out of this list. But as it is, a weaponless old man in a dressing gown means that Anakin Skywalker fills the number 5 slot. When watching the Return of the Jedi movie, be sure not to blink, otherwise you'll miss seeing a Man-a-Man. As a character most kids were unaware of, why Kenner made this figure is anyone's guess, but what they ended up giving us is an oversized lump of plastic resembling a frog. This figure has difficulty standing up and can barely hold his staff that would look more at home in the hands of a voodoo practitioner. A Man-a-Man is a truly awful figure and deserves to be in the number 4 spot. This may be controversial, but Side Snootles and the Max Rebo Band were articulated figures in 3 3/4 inch scale, therefore they are very much a part of the original Kenner line of figures. Not only does Side Snootles not come with any of the attributes young boys look for in their action figures, she was terribly made. As young boys in the 80s, we wanted our figures to be warriors who came equipped with weapons. And what we got here was just the ugliest nightclub singer ever seen, equipped with a microphone, and trust me on this, no boy in the 80s wanted this set. I've discussed the issue with EV99 having bowed legs, but Cy Snootles takes this to the next level. She's made from a very gummy plastic, which means that figure stands are essential to get this figure upright. A lame figure with an even lamer accessory lands Cy Snootles in the number 3 spot. Back in my primary school, this figure was known as the TV with legs. The only redeeming feature of this figure was the fact that the legs made a cool clicking sound. Aside from that, there was zero play value to this figure, and typically it was found at the bottom of most toy boxes. As a side note, one of the many annoying phrases I hear in the world of Star Wars collecting is the use of the term gonk droid. Please stop, this is the power droid who sits at number 2. Ironically, this figure contains the most play features of all the Star Wars figures, but in reality, how many times can you lift the head up and down and pull out the arms before boredom kicks in? What in theory should be the most exciting figure to play with turned out to be a real dud. When completing my Star Wars figure collection, I had to hold my nose when buying it because this figure stinks and is absolutely the worst figure in the line. FX7 takes that number 1 spot. So there you have it, that was my top 10 countdown of the worst Star Wars figures. Do you agree with me or do you disagree? Either way, please let me know in the comments and I will see you all next time.